Hello everyone, welcome to Unacademy's English YouTube channel. My name is Aravind. Um, this class is the first part of ongoing classes that I'm planning to take, where you get to learn about various current affairs topics that are important for UPSC Prelims examination in 2020, which is due to be conducted on October 4th. Okay, so if you want to follow my regular videos, subscribe to Unacademy's YouTube channel and don't forget to hit notification icon. Okay, now before going on to the topic itself, let me give you a brief introduction about myself. See, my name is Aravind. I'm a BE mechanical engineer. I have almost 3 years of experience in teaching UPSC and I've experienced all stages of UPSC civil services. Now, my specialization subjects include polity, international relations, as well as current affairs. The current affairs is the subject that I'll be teaching today. Now, what are the advantages of you subscribing to Unacademy subscription platform? The Unacademy is the largest online platform in India, or just online learning platform in India. That itself provides you with a lot of advantages. One such advantage is it's giving you access to top educators in a particular field from all over India. Okay, so, for example, if you want to study for UPSC examination, what you'll do, you'll move into Hyderabad or you'll move into Delhi, and you get access to educators only from a particular institution. But Unacademy, what it does is that it congregates all top educators all over India and they will share their knowledge with you. Top educators like Sudarshan Gujjar, Murnal Patel, Ayush. These are top educators in UPSC field for the past few years. So you get to learn from these people. Now, based on students' request, recently Unacademy has introduced two types of platforms. One platform is Plus subscription, and another one is Iconic subscription. So, what is the difference between this Plus subscription as well as Iconic subscription? See, this Plus subscription is all about teaching, whereas in case of Iconic subscription platform, it's all about mentorship. Our students felt that even though the Unacademy platform was very good, it required some mentorship from the part of Unacademy for students' benefit. So that's why we have introduced this Iconic subscription platform, wherein you get a dedicated personal coach where he will guide you through all stages of UPSC preparation. Almost, if you have any doubts regarding any subject, he will clarify that, and if you have any struggles that you are facing with regards to your preparation, he will guide you through that process. Now, see, these mentors are some of the top people with respect to UPSC teaching, and they have some experience with regards to UPSC examination. So, based on their experience, they will share their tips as well as strategies with you. And if you are going in any way in a wrong path, they will guide you. They will correct your path because UPSC is a very large syllabus, and studying this large syllabus requires concentrated strategy as well as focus from your part. Now, this concentrated strategy as well as focus will come from steady guidance. Now, this guidance will be provided by Iconic subscription platform. Now, these mentors will be appointed by an academy who are some of the top teachers with respect to UPSC field, and some have even cleared UPSC examination itself. Clear? Now, how is it different from Plus? See, as I mentioned before, Plus is all about teaching, and teaching is all about knowledge and as well as sharing. But whereas in case of mentorship, this mentorship is all about experience. These experienced people will share their experience to you, and based on their experience, they will rectify what are the things that you are doing. Yeah. Now, if you want to subscribe to Iconic subscription platform, whenever you're going to a subscription page, you'll be provided with two options, Plus as well as Iconic. Now, if you wish to subscribe to Iconic platform, you can select that particular tab and then continue with payment. And the amount charged for Iconic platform will be more compared to Plus platform. Now, if you look, the main advantage with Unacademy platform is the amount charged by Unacademy is very meager compared to offline institutions. See, if you go to a traditional institution, the amount charged by them will be around 2 to 3 lakhs. But with Unacademy charges you very less. And apart from that, if you're using my code Aravind V, you get 10% offer as well. Clear. Apart from the meager amount that Unacademy is charging you, you get 10% offer as well if you're using my code Aravind V. So, for example, if you're subscribing for 12 months platform, you have to pay 36,000. Now, if you're using my code Aravind V, you'll be paying around 32,400, not 36,000. So don't forget to use my code Aravind V whenever you are subscribed to a plus subscription platform. Clear? Now, let's move on to the class itself. Excuse me. See, this class is the first class on the ongoing series of 60-day current affairs marathon for UPSC Prelims. So this is the day one. Now, these are the topics that we will be looking today. If you wish to watch these videos daily, don't forget to subscribe to Unacademy's YouTube channel. Now, the topics that we will be looking today is RTA Amendment Bill. So, in this topic, we will look at what are the provisions that has been amended in this recent RTA Amendment Bill, and we will look at various provisions of Forest Rights Act, and we will look at what are the implementation problems with respect to this particular act, and we will look at what are the highlights of this financial stability report, and we will look at the details about colistin drug and what are the problems associated with administering colistin. And nextly, we will look at the scheme called as Pradhan Mantri Laghu Vyapari Mandhan Yojana. And the next topic that we will be looking today is national rubber policy, particularly vulnerable tribal groups, investment models, aquaponics, as well as gravitational lensing. So these are the topics that we will be looking today. And lastly, which I forgot to mention here, we'll also be talking about increasing strength of Supreme Court. Clear? The last topic that we'll be discussing today is increasing strength of Supreme Court. Clear? So let's move on to the first topic. The first topic that we'll be discussing today is RTA Amendment Bill 2019. See, RTA, Right to Information Act, was originally passed in 2005. Okay. Now, what does this act concerned about? See, RTA Act concerns itself with access to information to common people from government agencies. Clear? Via RTA, common people can access information from government agencies. So, in what way he can access information? Public, what he can do is he can write a letter. He can write a letter attested with revenue stamp, asking for information for regarding particular project or particular government process. Any information he can ask to a particular government agency. Now, this government agency will appoint a person called as public information officer. All government agency has to appoint a person called as public information officer. Now, this public information officer is responsible for disseminating information, whichever information that is asked by the public. So that's how RTA Act works. Now, before moving on to the amendment process itself, let's first look at what are the various provisions which was given in the original act itself. See, the Parliament has passed Right to Amendment Bill 2019, which seeks to amend Section 13, 16 as well as 21, 27 of RTA Act 2005. Now, we will look at what are the provisions that was included originally in Section 13, 16 as well as 25. Now, these sections as per original RTA Act of 2005. See, Section 13 of original Act provides for terms of office and conditions of Chief Information Commissioner and Information Commissioners. To it, CIC shall hold office for a term of 5 years from the date from which he enters this office and shall not hold office after he attains the age of 65 years. Clear? So this section 13 clearly defines what is the tenure of Chief Information Commissioner. It says that the tenure of Chief Information Commissioner is 5 years from the date of him entering the office, and also he cannot continue office beyond the age of 65 years. Also, Section 13 states that salaries, allowances, and other terms of service of Chief Information Commissioner shall be the same as Chief Election Commissioner, and those of Information Commissioner shall be the same as Election Commissioner. Clear? So, this Act clearly defines that The terms of office of Chief Information Commissioner is the same as Chief Election Commissioner, whereas in case of Information Commissioner, it is the same as Election Commissioners. Clear? Now, why is these two provisions very important? Why is this section 13 as well as section 16 very important? See, whenever you are studying a body, whenever you're studying that a body is a type of autonomous body, an autonomous body requires certain conditions to be fulfilled to be called as autonomous body. For example, there are a number of bodies which works under the government, like Comptroller Audit General of India, CGI, Central Vigilance Commission, Election Commission of India, CBI. See, Central Vigilance Commission as well as CBI, they are not autonomous organizations, whereas in case of CGI as well as Election Commission of India, these are autonomous organizations. Now, what are the conditions required for a body to be called as autonomous body? Now, these conditions include: one, the terms of service. The terms of service of that particular office should be clearly defined either in constitution or parliament bylaw. Clear? The terms of service, like that person, by holding this particular office, what are all the privileges that this person will enjoy? What are the information that this person can access from government agencies? So, what is the relationship between this particular person and other government agencies? These are called as terms of service. Now, these terms of service should be clearly defined either in constitution or parliament bylaw, and also his tenure also should be fixed by either constitution or parliament bylaw. And another one is his salary should also be fixed by either constitution or parliament bylaw. Now, why do you think these three things are very important? Now, if you take away these three things from a particular organization, from particular office, what will central government do? If this particular office is acting against the interest of central government, what will they do? They will immediately transfer this person to another post. So the autonomy of this particular organization will be compromised. So that's why these three provisions are very important for independent function of any institutions. Clear? Now, Section 16 of Original Act deals with state level information commissioners as well as state level information commissioners. It says that the term of state level chief information commissioner as well as information commissioners at 5 years. So, this Section 16 says that the term for state information commissioner as well as state chief information commissioner, their tenure is for 5 years, and they should not hold office beyond the age of 65 years, as well as salaries that are payable to state chief election commissioners is almost equivalent to election commissioners, whereas in case of state information commissioner, it is equivalent to that of chief secretary of that particular state government. Clear? So these are the provisions that has been defined in section 16. And also, section 27 provides for power of central government as well as state government to make rules for the smooth functioning of RTA Act 2005. Yeah, so these are the original text that was given in RTA Act with respect to section 16, section 13 as well as section 27. Now moving on, what are all the amendments that the current act has been passed with respect to these three sections? Now the first thing is the amendment proposes that the appointment will be for such term as may be prescribed by central government. Now in the original text, the term was given as 5 years. Now they have amended this provision saying that central government can appoint chief information commissioner as well as information commissioners for any term that is prescribed by the central government. So if central government wishes to appoint a particular person for say 3 years, they can do so. If they want to appoint a person for say 7 years, they can do so. So it's at the whims of central government to appoint a person to whichever tenure possible. Also, this amendment proposes that salaries, allowances, and other terms of service of Chief Information Commissioner and other information commissioners shall be such as may be prescribed by central government. Now, in the original text, it said that it's almost equivalent to Chief Election Commissioner as well as Election Commissioner. Now, they have amended this provision and they have said that it's equivalent, it's prescribed by central government. Clear? Now, the proposed bill has removed the equivalence of CIC with CEC. As I mentioned before, Office of Chief Information Commissioner is the equivalent of Chief Election Commissioner. Thus, this equivalence was removed in this amendment bill. This makes Chief Information Commissioner vulnerable to be removed by central government, as CEC can be removed only on the same manner as that of a judge of Supreme Court. Clear? In previous scenario, if central government wants to remove Chief Information Commissioner, he can do so only by means of the process of removing judge of Supreme Court, but this provision has been removed. So, if central government wishes to remove this particular Chief Information Commissioner, they can do so. And also, by amending Section 27, the central government will also control through rules the terms and condition of appointment of commissioners in the state. Clear? Now, this Section 27, in original text, it mentioned that both central government as well as state government can make laws with respect to smooth functioning of RTA Act 2005. Now, this section was amended saying that central government can also control state governments with respect to appointment of state information commissioners. Clear? So, this, if you look at these amendments, what is very clear? It is very clear that central government wants to take away the autonomous powers from the Chief Information Commission. Clear? Now, what are the critics of this particular amendment? See, all the provisions related to appointment were carefully examined by Parliamentary Standing Committee before passing the original RTA Act. See, before passing the original RTA Act, this RTA Act went to Parliamentary Standing Committee. Now, what is the job of Parliamentary Standing Committee? Parliamentary Standing Committee will carefully examine clause by clause what are the various provisions of a particular act. They will analyze what is the impact of this particular clause. Now, based on their analysis, they will amend the text of a particular act based on recommendations of Parliamentary Standing Committee. After that, it will be presented to Lok Sabha. Now, this original RT Act was carefully examined by Parliamentary Standing Committee. Now, at that time, Parliamentary Standing Committee felt that since information is a kind of fundamental right which is guaranteed in Constitution of India, it is very important that the institution which is carrying out this function should be autonomous from the functioning of central government. So that's why institutions like CVC, Chief Information Commission, Chief Election Commission, as well as Lok Sabha, CAC, these are given with autonomous functions. Clear? Now, security of tenure ensures not only independence of working in the commissioners but also independence of the institution overall from outside interference. Now, I'll give you one example. 2 years before, there was a CBI director called as Alok Verma. Yeah, there was a CBI director called as Alok Verma. Now, mind you, CBI doesn't have any autonomous powers. CBI is completely under the control of central government. That's why Supreme Court in numerous times have commented that CBI is a kind of caged parrot working under the wings of his master, that is central government. Now, there was a CBI director named Alok Verma. Now, this Alok Verma wanted to investigate the then BJP government with respect to Rafale scandal. At that time, there was a lot of allegations against the government with respect to the purchase of 36 Rafale aircrafts. Now, CBI director wanted to investigate into this particular scam. Now, obviously, central government got very angry and they removed this person from CBI director, saying that this person indulged in corrupt practices. Now, what does this show? This shows that as soon as this particular institution CBI started to question central government's involvements, they removed this particular person itself. So it undermines the institution itself. It undermines the institution of CBI itself. Now, subjecting Chief Information Commission the same process as CBI, it threatens the democratic functioning of CIC. Clear? Now, CIC cannot function independently. So, if any information commissioner says that this particular RTA Act should be entertained by the government of India, information should be revealed to the public, government can say that this person has indulged in corrupt practices, so we are transferring this person from CIC to another department. Clear? So, if central government becomes comfortable, they can change the personnel of CIC, which is very dangerous for democratic functioning of institutions. Now, the deliberate change in existing framework of RTA Act empowers the central government to unilaterally decide the tenure, salary, allowances, as well as other terms of services of information commissioners, both at center level as well as state levels. So central government has been given the power of appointing any person if they want to in Central Information Commissioner. So what will they do? They will appoint persons who are favorable to the current central government. And also the manner in which the amendment has been pushed through without any citizen consultation, bypassing examination by standing committee, demonstrates the urgency to pass these amendments even without proper parliamentary scrutiny. See, if government wants to pass any important bill, what they will do is before as soon as the table in a particular parliamentary house, either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, what government will do is that they will publish this bill in Gazette of India. They will publish in Gazette of India. Now, what is the reason why this bill has been published in Gazette of India? So that common people as well as eminent persons within India, they can comment on this particular bill. Yeah, they will give some opinion on what are all the problematic provisions in this particular act. All these things they will look into that and they will give some suggestions to the central government. Now, all these suggestions will be taken by parliamentary standing committee. Clear? As soon as a bill has been laid to either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, this bill will be published in Gazette of India, and as soon as this introduction, this bill will be sent to Parliamentary Standing Committee. Now, this Parliamentary Standing Committee, they will examine various proposals, various feedback given by the citizens of India with respect to that particular bill. After examining these criticisms, they will amend the text of that particular bill. Only after that, this bill will be allowed to pass. Clear? Now, this entire process has been skimmed through. This was not followed. This shows that the government which passed this particular act does not want to follow democratic process. Clear? Also, amendments under RTA will weaken democratic institutions. Clear? Now, the next topic that we'll be looking is Forest Rights Act of 2006. See, the main aim of this act is to correct historical injustice that was made towards forest dwellers. See, in India, forest cover is almost 22 to 23 percentage. That is 22 to 23 percentage of land cover of India is occupied by forest. Now, in these forest lands, traditionally scheduled tribes as well as other forest dwellers has been residing in these areas. Now, the problem with these people is that they don't have adequate land records showing that these people have been residing in this particular area. So, right from 1950 to present day, in the name of development, various governments have taken away lands from scheduled tribes as well as other forest dwellers in the name of constructing dams, in the name of partaking in mining activities. So, in the name of development, they have snatched away lands from scheduled tribes as well as other forest dwellers. Now, these scheduled tribes as well as forest dwellers, they rely on forest for their livelihoods as well as income. So, if you are taking away their lands, what will happen? They will suddenly lose out on their livelihoods. And since these people are not well educated enough, they cannot survive in mainland India. They don't have necessary life skills to survive in mainland India. So that's why these people are ripe for recruitment for Naxal movements. Clear. So if you look at one of the reasons why Naxal movement grown in India, especially during 1970s as well as 1980s, because of increasing in mining activities, lot of livelihoods of forest dwellers was destroyed. Because of that only they joined towards Naxal movements. Now this act aims to correct those historical injustices that was made towards scheduled tribes as well as forest dwellers. Now, this act recognizes and vests the forest rights and occupation in forest land in forest dwelling scheduled tribes as well as other forest dwellers who have been residing in such forest for generations but whose rights could not be recorded. Since these people don't have any sort of land records, this act aims to provide some records saying that these people have been residing in for this forest for this amount of time. Clear? So that's the purpose of this particular act. Now, who are all eligible to claim rights under Forest Rights Act of 2006? Primarily, people who are residing in forest as well as forest lands and who are dependent on forest as well as forest land for livelihood. Further, either the claimant must be a member of scheduled tribe or in that area, or other traditional forest dweller, that is, must be residing in forest for almost 75 years. And for these people, title rights, which will give rights, relief as well as developmental rights for these people, also forest management right and various other community rights will be provided under this particular act. So, what are the rights that will be given? Title rights, relief as well as developmental rights, forest management rights, and also other community rights will be given to these people under this act. Now, what is the process of recognition of these rights? Okay, to grant this right, there should be certain process, right? Now, what is that process? The first process is first year. The first process goes through Grama Sabha. Now, in Grama Sabha will form a committee called as Forest Rights Committee. Now, this Forest Rights Committee will comprise members from around 10 to 15 members. This Forest Rights Committee will constitute members around 10 to 15 members. Now, these 10 to 15 members, they will receive proposal from various people who are residing in forest. They will collect various proposals from number of people. They will examine these proposals. Based on their screening, they will prepare a proposal. Clear? They will prepare a proposal. Now, in this proposal, it will contain the names as well as families who deserves recognition from government. Now, this proposal will be sent to second tier. Now, this second tier comprises of taluka level committee. Now, this taluka level committee will scrutinize. First, they will scrutinize. After scrutinization, they will approve this particular proposal. They will approve this particular proposal. After approval, this approval will be sent to third tier. In third tier, that is in district level, their rights will be recognized and these rights will be implemented. That is, the proper land records for these particular lands will be given to scheduled tribes as well as other forest dwellers. And lastly, there is another type of committee called as a state level monitoring committee. Now, what is the purpose of the state level monitoring committee? Now, the state level monitoring committee will oversee the implementation of Forest Right Act over the entire state. It will look at whether this district level committee is functioning perfectly or not, whether all these proposals are looked into or not. All these things they will monitor. Clear? So this is how Forest Rights will be recognized. Clear? Under this Forest Rights Act of 2006. Now, what are all the challenges in implementation of Forest Rights Act of 2006? The first one is deficient Gram Sabha. Now, tell me what are all the areas that require recognition of forest rights? Usually, areas that are in interior parts of India, that is, forests which are covered in forest. Now, in these areas, people are underdeveloped. That is, they have less education as well as health indicators. So they don't have any knowledge on the workings of any legal process or any bureaucratic levels. So what is Gram Sabha? What is Gram Sabha? Gram Sabha constitutes of all eligible electors of a particular village or panchayat. That's Gram Sabha. Gram Sabha comprises of all electors of a particular village or panchayat. So if Gram Sabha is a congregation of all people in that area, those people in forest area don't have any necessary knowledge in this particular legal process. So the knowledge level in that particular Gram Sabha will be very low. Clear? So if their knowledge level is very low, how can they efficiently prepare proposals? How can they effectively ask for their rights against state government as well as district administration? They cannot do that, right? Since they don't have adequate knowledge, they cannot do that. So that's why in these areas they have deficient Gram Sabha, which itself is a huge problem. Now the next one is lack of regular elections in panchayats. Clear? Even though Constitution under 73rd Amendment Act has mandated that panchayat has to be conducted every 5 years. It has to be compulsorily conducted, but in practice that's not the case. Take the case of recent Tamil Nadu panchayat elections. in Tamil Nadu, Panchayat elections has been dragging along for almost 3 years. It was dragged on for almost 3 years. Only after around 3 to 4 years, Panchayat elections was conducted last year. Okay. Now, in implementation, there have been number of instances where Panchayat elections was not conducted or delayed. Also, there's been a lot of ambiguity in the formation of Forest Rights Committee. Now, this Forest Rights Act does not define what is the eligibility required for members who can sit in Forest Rights Committee. Since there is a lot of ambiguity in that particular selection process, what a president of that particular Gram Sabha will do, he will appoint persons who are favorable to him, who are favorable to a particular section of community. So, this ambiguity in formation of Forest Rights Committee itself is a very huge problem. Yeah. And also there is a complexity of process. See here, for rights to be recognized, see how many process a proposal has to go through. It has to go through 3 tiers. So in all these 3 tiers, this proposal can be subjected to corrupt practices. Since there is a lot of complexity involved in the process itself, this will become challenge in an implementation process. And also illiteracy among tribals. Tribal people are some of the most illiterate people in Indian continent. Now, if they are illiterate, they cannot demand for their rights properly. So that itself is a very big challenge in the implementation of Forest Rights Act of 2006. And also poor administration. As you all know, district administration is usually riddled with corruption and delay in process, all these problems. Because of this poor administrative setup in Indian government, Forest Acts in most number of cases is not implemented properly. And also lack of land records as a proof. Now, in my previous slide, I talked about lack of land records on the part of forest people. But in India, due to lack of digitization of land records, and also lack of proper maintenance of land records, taluka office itself does not have proper land records. Now in that case, rights cannot be properly recognized for these people. Okay. Now that's it with regards to Forest Rights Act. I hope everything was clear with respect to this particular topic. Now, if you have any doubts with this topic, you can ask in the comment section. I try to answer all the doubts. Okay. Now we will move on to the next topic, that is Financial Stability Report. Now this report will be released by an organization called as RBI. Now, excuse me. Now the next topic is Financial Stability Report. A Financial Stability Report is released by a body called as RBI. Now, what is the purpose of this report? Now, this report will assess the stability as well as performance of various financial institutions in India. Basically, banks as well as other non-banking financial institutions or other institutions which they partake in financial activities. So it will assess the stability as well as performance of these various financial institutions. So that's the purpose of this Financial Stability Report, and this report is released by organization RBI. Okay. Now this topic can be asked in prelims, and the highlights that I'll be mentioning in this video can also be used in mains answer writing. Yeah. So if in mains they have asked question regarding non-performing assets, you can take information from this financial stability report, and you can code that information in your mains answer writing. Okay. When it comes to mains answer writing, most of the people know some basic points with respect to that particular answer. Now, what sets apart from persons who are clearing mains and persons who are not clearing mains is the persons who are clearing mains will write specific information. They will quote information from reports. They will write some important schemes for that particular topic. All these things they will write that. Clear? They will mix objective information as well as subjective information. Now these two things has to be mixed together. For that, this topic is very important in the perspective of mains answer writing. Okay. Now, what are all the highlights in this particular report? Now, there has been a general decline in GDP growth in the year 2017 to 2018. Clear? There has been a, sorry, 2018 to 2019. There has been a general decline in growth rate in this particular calendar year. Now, the reasons for this decline in growth rate is because of decline in investment rate as well as consumption expenditure. Now, these two are considered to be the main drivers of GDP in India. Because of the decline in these two parameters, GDP has slowed down. Now, the GDP is expected to pick up in 2019-20 calendar year. For that, government must focus on reviving private investment demand. At the same time, remain vigilant about global economic slowdown. Clear? Now, obviously, due to COVID pandemic, Indian economy is expected to contract in this current fiscal year. Now, the next highlight is decrease in gross NPA. Now, the gross NPA has declined to 9.3% in March 2019. Now, the gross NPAs of public sector banks also registered a decline and presently stands at 12.6%. Clear, the collective gross national NPA for the entire country, which includes almost all banks, has declined to 9.3%. But for the public sector banks, it has declined to 12.6%. Now, what does it say? NPS of public sector banks is higher compared to private sector banks. Clear? Now, this information can be asked in prelims. Also, gross NPA of all scheduled commercial banks may come down from 9.3% in March to 9% in March 2020. Now, the gross NPA is expected to fall further from 9.3 to 9.0. Clear? Now, the next highlight of this report is increase in credit as well as deposit growth. So, what are the main two functions of bank? The main two functions is credit as well as deposits. Credit means giving out loans, and deposit means public depositing their money in banks. Now, these two activities have seen an increasing trend. Clear? Now, the next one is increase in net income of scheduled commercial banks. Now, the scheduled commercial banks' net interest income growth improved to 16.5% in March 2019 as compared to 15.9% in September 2018. Now, despite higher growth in their operating expenditure in March 2019 as compared to September 2018, scheduled commercial banks were able to maintain positive earnings. So, despite increase in expenditure, scheduled commercial banks were able to maintain their positive earnings. Now, the next one is provision coverage ratio. Now, the provision coverage ratio for all scheduled commercial banks increased sharply from 52.4% in September 2018 to 60.6% in March 2019. Now, what is this provision coverage ratio? See, let's assume there is a bank A. Now, this bank A is giving out 100 crore worth of loan. Now, out of this 100 crore worth of loan, 50 crore worth of loan is good loans and 50 crore worth of loan is bad loans. Now, this is this one is good loan, this one is bad loan. Now, according to provision coverage ratio, bank A has to set aside 50 crore worth of money which can compensate for 50 crore worth of bad loan. So, how much amount is there in bad loans? Particular bank has to set aside that amount for provision coverage ratio. Clear? Now, that is called as provision coverage ratio. The next one is capital adequacy ratio. Now, the capital to risk weighted asset ratio improved from 13.7% in 2018 to 14.3% in March 2019 after recapitalization of public sector banks. Clear? Now, what is capital adequacy ratio? Capital adequacy ratio, the definition is Tier 1 capital plus Tier 2 capital divided by risk weighted assets into 100. Clear? Now, this capital adequacy ratio is defined by Basel norms. Now, currently we are following Basel 3 norms. Based on Basel 3 norms, for all other banks around the world, Basel 3 norms is set at 7 to 11% capital adequacy ratio, but for Indian banks it is set at 12%. The lower the number, it is better. Now, what is the reason why this capital adequacy ratio was set? After 2008 financial crisis, Basel wanted to curb speculative investment that was taken by number of banks, and also they wanted to reduce number of risk-taking ventures. So to avoid all these things, this particular provision was introduced, capital adequacy ratio. Now, according to this capital adequacy ratio, all banks has to maintain 11 percentage CAR. But for Indian banks, it is RBI has set CAR at 12 percentage. Clear? Improvement in asset quality. Bank-wise distribution of asset quality shows that number of banks having gross national IPA have come down in March 2018 as compared to September 2018. This implies a broader improvement in asset quality. Bank-wise distribution of capital adequacy indicates that there are more banks having capital adequacy ratio at more than 12% in March 2019 as compared to September 2018. So these are the highlights that has been mentioned in a financial stability report. Okay? Now this information can be asked in prelims examination. So I just have a overview on all this important information. Okay? Excuse me. Now the next topic that we will be looking today is the drug colistin. See, this drug colistin is a antibiotic drug. Antibiotic drug. Now this colistin is being widely used in poultry sector in India, and it has been widely recognized that indiscriminate use of colistin in Indian poultry industry is one of the main reasons for increased antimicrobial resistance in India. Now, what is this antimicrobial resistance? See, right from World War One, when antibiotics was introduced, antibiotics is the cornerstone of modern medicine. Yeah. Now, antibiotics is used for treating any type of infection. For example, if you have any type of wounds, the first thing that doctors will prescribe is antibiotics. Or if you have any type of high fever or cold, and if you have any sort of internal infection, also antibiotics will be prescribed to you. Now, what is the purpose of this antibiotic? To kill bacteria. Clear? Now, whenever you have particular infection, doctor will prescribe to take antibiotics for prescribed number of days. Say, for example, 5 days. Clear? Now you have to take this particular drug for 5 days so that you kill this bacteria effectively. Clear? Now, what will people do? So, as soon as they started to show improvement in their health indicator, what will they do? For example, I am taking antibiotics. So, my doctor has prescribed me to take these antibiotics for 5 days. Now, in 2 days itself, I have recovered completely. So, I will stop taking these antibiotics. But what will it do is this bacteria that has been residing in my body will not die completely. So instead, this bacteria will become resistant to this particular antibiotic, which I have not taken fully. So based on this bacteria will become too immune to that particular antibiotic. That's how antibiotic resistance will increase. Clear? Now, this antibiotic resistance continues to pose a serious threat to global health. While antibiotic resistance can evolve naturally, misuse of antibiotics in humans as well as animals has been blamed for accelerating the process. So, even though antibiotic resistance can be attributed to natural process, the process has been accelerated because of indiscriminate use as well as misuse of antibiotics in both humans as well as animals. A World Health Organization has said that colistin is a reserve antibiotic which should be considered as a last resort option. Only in last resort we have to administer colistin drug, but in India we have been using this drug indiscriminately in poultry industry. Now, what is this colistin drug? Now, colistin or polymyxin E is an old antibiotic which was first introduced in 1952. Now, the drug has been used since 1959 for treating infections caused by gram-negative bacilli, which are responsible for various diseases such as plague, cholera, as well as typhoid. Now, what are the concerns with colistin? Now, the problem is that this potent antibiotic is highly misused in livestock industry in India to prevent diseases as well as to uh, promote growth in poultry industry. Clear? The misuse of colistin in poultry industries is said to be a major reason for increasing in antibiotic resistance in India. Colistin is being used for growth hormones so that poultry grows faster, and also they produce more muscle in their body so that they can be sold for higher price. Now, this practice has led to increase in antimicrobial resistance in India. Now, this particular topic can be asked in prelims question. Questions can be asked like the term colistin has been seen in news recently. What does this term mean? This question can be asked. The number of questions like this have been asked in previous year question paper. For example, last year they asked a question regarding Himalayan nettle plant. Yeah. So these type of questions will be asked in UPSC Prelims. So please remember this stuff. Now the next topic that we will be looking today is National Rubber Policy, which was introduced in 2019. Now, before going on to the topic itself, let me give you a brief overview on rubber production in India. Okay. Before going on to the policy, we will look into that. See, India is the sixth largest producer of rubber in India, but India is the second largest consumer of rubber in the world. Okay. So what does it say? There is a disparity between production and demand. And because of this disparity, large amounts of rubber is being imported from other countries. Okay. And also, most of the rubber that is being grown in India, almost 81% of the production is being done by only two states. Those two states include Kerala and Tamil Nadu. There are other states like Assam, Tripura, Northeastern states, Meghalaya, Odisha, Karnataka, as well as Maharashtra and West Bengal. This grows some amount of rubber, but the majority of rubber production is done in these two states, Kerala as well as Tamil Nadu. Now, what is the legal as well as institutional framework for rubber production in India? Rubber Act of 1947 provides for the development of rubber industry under the control of Union government. Okay? So, rubber production will come under the subjects of Union list. Also, Rubber Board, headquartered in Kottayam, Kerala, under the administration of Ministry of Commerce and Industry, has been effectively supporting the rubber industry. Now, this particular information is very important. So now, this information can be asked in prelims examination. For example, they can ask like rubber production will come under the ambit of which ministry? Since many people will think that rubber comes under agriculture, the ministry is Ministry of Agriculture, but that's clearly wrong. The ministry that is responsible for rubber production is Ministry of Commerce as well as Industry, because in India, rubber production is not treated as an agricultural practice, rather it is treated as a manufacturing process. Okay, rubber production in India is treated as a manufacturing process, not as agriculture process. And also, for promotion of rubber sector, Government of India has allowed 100% foreign direct investment in plantation of rubber, coffee, tea, cardamom, palm oil tree as well as olive oil tea. So apart from 100% FTA which has been allowed in rubber plantations, Government of India has also allowed 100% in plantation of coffee, tea, palm oil tree as well as olive tree. Now moving on, what are all the broad contours of National Rubber Policy 2019? Status of natural rubber. See, according to this policy, the government must explore the possibility of treating natural rubber as an agricultural product, and the income from rubber production should be treated as agricultural income for all practical as well as legal purposes. Now, what are the advantages by classifying rubber production as agricultural process? One such advantage is easy access to credit by rubber plantations towards from banking institutions. So they can, if rubber is being classified as agricultural production, what are the benefits? Rubber plantations can get easy access to credit from banks, and also there is no need for paying taxes to central government as well as state government if it is being classified as agriculture income. Clear? And also sustainability in production. The next facet of rubber policy is sustainability in production. See, the number one problem with respect to rubber production is that we have exhausted all land with respect to rubber production. There is no more land that is available for rubber production. Rubber can be grown in only particular set of plants, so particular set of lands. Now all these lands have been completely utilized. Now to increase this production, sustainability of these particular lands as well as rubber is very important. Now for that purpose, the domestic production of natural rubber should be able to meet at least 75% of requirement in 2030, and hence the government must explore the possibility of increasing the area under rubber plantation, particularly in the non-traditional states. Clear? That's one thing. The next facet of national rubber policy is import-export policy. So the import of natural rubber has seen a significant increase over the years. In this regard, a policy has to be put out so that the import of natural rubber from other countries doesn't adversely affect domestic rubber planters. Clear? So that's a policy which needs to be further put out. And also, the brand Indian natural rubber should be popularized so that this brand will be able to distinguish Indian natural rubber from other brands of rubber. So, this brand of Indian natural rubber should be popularized in other markets. And also, we should revamp institutional framework of rubber production. As I mentioned before, rubber production currently is being overseen by a body called as Rubber Board, which has been established in Kottayam, Kerala. Now we have to revamp this rubber board so that it gets aligned itself with best practices in global arena. Yeah. Also, productivity enhancement. Now, the capacity of existing departmental nurseries under rubber board should be fully utilized for propagation of genetically superior as well as quality planting material. So we have to substitute our natural grown rubber with genetically modified rubber so that the rubber production gets increased. So this is the topic. That's it with regards to national rubber policy. Now, if you have any doubts with respect to this particular topic, drop comment in the comment section. So I'll try to answer those doubts. Now the next topic that we'll be looking is Pradhan Mantri Laghu Vyapari Mandhan Yojana. Excuse me. Now, Ministry of Labour and Employment has introduced a pension scheme for small traders called as Pradhan Mantri Laghu Vyapari Mandhan Yojana under Unorganized Workers Social Security Act of 2008. Now, this scheme is an extension of Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Mandhan Yojana. Now, what are the provisions or what are the advantages of this particular act? Now, this act will be beneficiaries eligible for pension of rupees 3,000 after the age of 60 years. Yeah. So it will give a pension for people who are over the age of 60 years for Laghu Vyaparis. Now, who are these people? Laghu Vyaparis. Laghu Vyaparis means people who are self-employed, working as shop owners, retail traders, rice mill owners, oil mill workers, workshop owners, commission agents, brokers of real estate. All these people will be considered as Laghu Vyaparis. Now, these Laghu Vyaparis are the backbone of informal sector in India. An informal sector constitutes a large chunk of GDP production in India. So the welfare of this informal sector is very important when it comes to GDP growth of GDP of India. So that for the help of this informal persons who are working under informal sector, this particular scheme was introduced. Now, what are all the provisions under this particular scheme? Now, for the purpose of this scheme, pension fund shall be administered by Life Insurance Corporation of India. The pension will be disbursed by LIC. Also, each eligible subscriber under this scheme shall receive assured minimum monthly pension of rupees 3,000 after attaining age of 60 years through LIC. Now, once the eligible subscriber joins the scheme at any age between 18 to 40 years, such subscriber has to contribute till attaining the age of 60 years. Okay. There are two persons. For example, there are two types of persons who are willing to join this particular scheme. One person is of 18 years of age and another person is of 36 years of age. Now, even though these two persons belong to different ages, this 18-year person has to contribute to this particular scheme up to 16 years. Even this 30-year-old person has to contribute to 60 years of age. Clear? On attaining the age of 60 years, subscriber shall be entitled to get assured minimum monthly pension of 3,000 rupees with the benefit of family pension as well. Clear? Now, what is the required eligibility for this particular scheme? Now, this scheme shall be open to only Laghu Vyaparis for joining whose annual turnover does not exceed 1.5 crore. Okay. Laghu Vyaparis whose annual turnover is less than 1.5 crore, only these people are eligible for in this particular scheme. Okay. And this particular person should have a savings bank account as well as valid Aadhaar number. And also, this Laghu Vyapari should not be eligible, should not be less than 80 years of age and should not exceed 40 years of age. And also, this Laghu Vyapari should not receive any other pension for the benefit of informal workers. This Laghu Vyapari should not receive any other pension for the benefit of informal workers. Only then, only after meeting all these three requirements, he will be eligible to this particular scheme. Okay. Now, this topic is very important from prelims perspective. Schemes in prelims each year, almost 3 to 4 questions are coming from schemes. Now, schemes is important not only from prelims perspective; it is also important from mains perspective. Now, whenever you are writing mains answer for a particular topic, you can quote particular scheme, saying that this scheme was introduced for the benefit of these people to address this particular problem. You can write, you can make your answers in mains more subjective, so that your answers will be what is it? You will elevate your mains answer writing. Okay. Now, the next topic that we'll be looking today is types of investment models. Now, this investment models is important both from prelims as well as mains perspective. In prelims perspective, number of questions can be asked from like what are the advantages of this particular investment model and what are the provisions of this particular investment model. All these questions can be asked. Now, in mains topic, there is a separate syllabus itself under GS2. There is a separate sub-syllabus called as types of investment models. Now, every year, every 2 years, you can expect a question from types of investment models. Now, in this topic, we will look at what are the types of investment models that are in existence in India. Now, the first type of investment model that we'll be looking is public investment model. Now, in this type of investment model, if you want to undertake an infra project, for example, if you want to construct a road between uh, Jaipur and Delhi. Now, in this, if this project is a public investment model, the full revenue will be borne by the government itself. The complete revenue for this infra project will be given by the government itself. Now, the government will source this revenue from raising taxes from common people. Okay, so that's how public investment model works. Now, what are the advantages of public investment model? Now, whenever if an economy is going through extended period of recession, if economic is going through that phase, what happens to private investment? Private investment will decline because of the recession. So in that time, government has to increase their infrastructure spending so that it is compensating the investment from private sector. Clear? So that the government is enhancing the productivity of the nation. Clear? Now, the properly targeted public investment can do much to boost the economic performance, generate aggregate demand quickly, fueling productivity, growth by improving human capital, encouraging technological innovation, as well as spurring private sector investment in by increasing returns. So, these are the advantages of having public investment model. Now, what are the disadvantages of public investment model? Now, government alone cannot undertake all infra projects. Government doesn't have the resources to do that. So that's why we require public investment model as well as private investment model. Clear? Now, what is private investment model? Now, for a country to grow as well as increase in its production investment, tax revenue of India is not adequate to meet the demand of the government. But now, this to meet adequate infrastructure demands, private investment is also very essential. See, right now it is estimated that every year India requires around 20 lakh crore worth of investment in infra investment that is to be spent on India. Now, clearly, government doesn't have the resources to spend all 20 lakh crore. That's why government will spend some amount, and also it requires participation from private sectors as well. Now, private investment can be sourced from both domestic as well as international market. From abroad, private investment comes from the form of FDI as well as FPI. Now, the abbreviation of FDI is foreign direct investment. FPI is a abbreviation is a short form for foreign portfolio investment. Now, in case of FDI, a particular private company from abroad will invest directly in will start a company and they will invest directly in that particular company. Okay, this is called as foreign direct investment. But in case of FPI, they will invest only in shares of a particular company. They will not invest directly. They will not start a particular company. Rather than doing that, they will invest in shares of a particular company. So that's the difference between FDI as well as FPI. And also, private investment can generate more efficiency by creating more competition. Okay. Now, take the example of car industry. There are a number of car industry players in India like Hyundai, Honda, Suzuki. Now, these are the number of car manufacturers in India. These are a number of car manufacturers. There is a competition between three car industries. Now, because of this competition between these industries, what will they do? They will try to be as much efficient as possible so that they can provide much value to the consumers. So, private investment is very important for increasing efficiency in a particular economy, and because of that increased efficiency, what happens? Realization of economic resources will be much more better compared to public investment. Okay. Now, recently there has been increasing trend towards moving towards public-private partnership. Now, why public-private partnership is required? Now, say for example, government wants to construct road between Delhi and Mumbai. Yeah, now government wants to construct dedicated freight corridor between Delhi and Mumbai. Clear? Now, to partake this huge infra projects, private sector will not have any resources. Now, for considering this huge infra projects, private sector will not have any money. So, what private sector will do is that they will partner with government. Okay? Both private as well as government will come together and they will invest in this particular infra project. Okay. Now, there are a number of models to this public-private partnership itself. The first one is build, operate, transfer model, build, own, operate model, engineering, procurement as well as construction model, and the last one which was introduced recently is hybrid annuity model. Now, the first type of public-private partnership that we are going to discuss today is build, operate as well as transfer model. Now, this type of PPP was widely used for construction of roads between 1990 to 2014. This model was used for construction of roads between 1990 to 2014. Now, this is a conventional public-private partnership model in which private sector is responsible for design, building as well as operating this particular infra projects. Now, this private company will be given a lease period. A lease period for which this private company can operate this particular infra project. After the expiry of this lease period, they will transfer this infra project to government. Clear? After the expiry of this lease period, after they have recuperated all their revenue from their investment as well as generated profits of this particular investment, they will transfer this infra project to government. Clear? So this is the conventional build, operate, transfer model, and also public sector will allow the private sector to partner, collect revenue from the users. The national highway projects contracted out by National Highways Authority of India under PPP board is the major example of POT model. Clear? This is one type of PPP model. Next one is build, own, operate model of public-private partnership. Now, in this model, ownership of the newly built facility will rest with the private party. In the previous model, the ownership is given to government, but in the case of build, own as well as operate, the ownership for infinite time will reside with the company who is constructing that particular infra project. Okay. But the difference between BOT as well as BOO is that on a mutually agreed terms and conditions, public sector partner agrees to purchase goods and services produced by this project. Now, this type of PPP model will be widely used in power sector. For example, Adani Group, they want to construct solar farm in Gujarat. Clear? Solar farm in Gujarat. Now, whenever Adani Group wants to construct solar farm, they will operate under build, own, operate model. Now, under this model, Adani Group will invest in the solar farm. They get to own this solar farm, but they will enter into an agreement between distribution company of Gujarat. saying that this distribution company should purchase power from the solar farm at a set price for this number of years. Okay. Now this build own operate model will be used for number of power sector projects. Okay. Now this is one type of PPP model. The next type of PPP model that we'll be looking is engineering, procurement, and construction model. Now, under this model, the financing is done by public sector only. Clear? Unlike other models, the financing is done by only public sector. But what is then if financing is done by only public sector, then what is the role of private sector? Now, under this model, the private players are responsible for engineering, procurement of raw materials as well as construction and receive lump sum money. Okay, now this private sector they are responsible for designing as well as constructing this particular infra project, but operating as well as getting to own this particular infra project rests with public sector. Now the private sector's participation is very minimal in this particular PPP model. Now the problem with this model is that high financial burden is placed on public sector. Okay. Now this is one deficiency of EPC model. Now this hybrid annuity model was introduced recently. Now one of the reasons why this model was introduced recently because under BOT model, under BOT model, private sector has to invest a lot of money. Private sector has to invest all the money that is required for this infra project. Now, during 2014 to 2018, banks were under a lot of stress to give out loans to infra projects, and also number of private companies were also under a lot of stress. They were not generating additional revenue, so they didn't have a lot of money to invest in infra projects. So, private sector was lacking in resources to invest in infra projects. So that's why government wanted to develop a new type of model called as hybrid annuity model. Now, under this model, government finances 40% for the project cost in the first 5 years through annual annuity. Okay. So, government, if for example, the project cost is 1000 crore, government will provide 400 crore. So, for a set period of time, for 5 years, this 400 crores will be divided into a sum of 80 crores. This 80 crore will be given by government annually to this particular infra project. And private entity must finance the remaining 60 percentage. Now, if you look at this particular model, it is very clear that HAM combines both EPC as well as build, operate, transfer annuity model. Okay. Now, in this particular model, public entity retains the ownership as well as operation, while the private entity has to provide engineering expertise. HAM is gaining prominence for highway construction. Clear. Now, in case of build, operate, transfer model, the ownership initially was given to private sector, but in case of hybrid annuity model, the ownership is given to public sector, not with the private sector. But private sector will receive revenue from this particular infra project. The private entity cannot collect toll. Under this, revenue is collected by National Highways Authority of India, but this toll will be shared between both government as well as private players. So that's the specifics of hybrid annuity model. Now, this model has been introduced recently and has been following widely recently for construction of highway projects. Clear? Now we will move on to. Sorry, this slide has been repeated. Now we will move on to the next topic. The next topic that we'll be looking today is particularly vulnerable tribal groups. See, in India, the tribal population makes up around 8.6 percentage of total population. So, for example, if India has around 100 crore population, almost 8.6 crore population is tribal population. Now, out of this 8.6 crore population itself, some tribal groups are more powerful compared to other tribal groups. Even this among these tribal groups, there is a lot of disparity among them. Even though tribal groups are some of the most marginalized communities in India, even among them, there is a lot of difference in developmental indicators. Okay. Now, among these tribal groups, particularly vulnerable tribal groups are more vulnerable among these tribal groups due to this factor. More developed and assertive tribal groups take a major chunk of tribal developmental funds, because of which particularly vulnerable tribe groups need more funds than directed towards their development. Yeah. If some tribal groups are more powerful compared to other tribal groups, what will these tribal groups do? They will assert more pressure on public institutions and they will receive more number of funds to themselves. Yeah. So that's why PVTGs require a lot more care compared to other tribal groups. Now, considering this in mind, Government of India appointed a commission called as Vyapari Commission in 1973. Now, this Vyapari Commission created primitive tribal groups as a separate category who are less developed among tribal groups. In 2006, Government of India renamed particularly primitive tribal groups into particularly vulnerable tribal groups. In this context, in 1975, Government of India initially identified some 52 such tribal groups as PVTGs, and also in 1993, some additional 23 groups have been identified as PVTG. So overall, there have been around 75 PVTGs identified by Government of India, and there are around 705 other scheduled tribes. Clear? Now, how are they identified? What is the process of identification of PVTG? Now, for identification of PVTGs, the state government or union governments, union territory governments, they should submit their proposal to Central Ministry of Tribal Welfare for identification of PVTGs. First, state government will prepare a proposal. They will send this proposal to Ministry of Tribal Affairs. Now, this Ministry of Tribal Affairs will ensure that this particular set of people will fulfill a certain criteria. If these people meet this certain criteria, they will be declared as PVTGs. Clear? Now, there can be question asked from this. For example, questions can be asked like who has the power to declare a particular group as PVTGs? And options will be given like state government, central government, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, and President of India. Now, the answer for this particular question is clearly Central Ministry of Tribal Affairs, not state government, because state government only prepares the proposal. They don't have the power to declare such groups as PVTGs. Okay? Now, so far, 75 such tribal groups has been categorized as particularly vulnerable tribal groups. Now, these PVTGs have been residing in almost 18 states, 18 states as well as union territories. Okay. Now, what are the characteristics that is required to be declared a particular group as PVTGs? Now, these characteristics include now these people should have mostly homogeneous and should have very small population. Okay. And these people should be relatively physically isolated compared to other parts of India, and they should have pre-level technology of agriculture. So they should rely mostly on hunting as well as gathering for their livelihood. Okay. So they should have pre-level technology of agriculture, and they should have also declining population. Now, based on this criteria only, the central ministry will examine number of proposals, and if a group meets all these particular criteria, then only they will be declared as PVTGs. Now, this information is very important from police perspective. Among 75 listed PVTGs, highest number are found in Orissa. Okay. Now, what are the issues that are related to PVTGs? Now, social conditions as well as declining population. This is the first issue that is related to PVTG. Now, as I mentioned before, tribal groups are some of the most marginalized communities in India. Okay. Now, even among them, social conditions of PVTGs are very less compared to mainland India. So they have very low social condition, and also they have very declining population, and their livelihoods is being destroyed because of number of developmental activities like mining, dam construction, highway projects. Because of this, their livelihoods also are being threatened, and health conditions of PVTGs are deteriorating day by day because they are getting exposed to mainland India increasingly. Because of that, they are getting exposed to number of new types of germs. Now, because of that, their health conditions are being deteriorated year on year. Now, what are all the schemes that has been devised by Government of India for the development of PVTGs? The first scheme that was developed by Government of India is development of particularly vulnerable tribal groups scheme. Now, this scheme will be devised by central government. Now, to implement this particular scheme, state government will prepare conservation cum development plan. Clear? This scheme, development of PVTG scheme, is devised by central government. Now, based on this particular scheme, funds will be given to state government. Now, the state government will prepare conservation cum development plan, and they will use these funds to implement developmental activities with respect to PVTGs. That's how these schemes work. Okay. So that's it with regards to this topic. Now we'll move on to the next topic. The next topic that we'll be looking today is gravitational lensing. Excuse me. Now, why we are discussing this particular topic? Now, we are discussing this particular topic because NASA is planning to launch James Webb Space Telescope in 2021. Now, this space telescope will use a natural phenomenon called as gravitational lensing to carry out astronomical observation. Now, what is the purpose of this James Webb Telescope? Now, this James Webb Telescope will study every phase in the history of our origin of universe, ranging from first luminous glows after Big Bang to the formation of solar systems. And this telescope will analyze what are the reasons why certain planets like Earth are capable of sustaining human life, and it will also analyze the evolution of our own solar system. Clear? Now, from achieving this objective, NASA has launched a program called as Targeting Extremely Magnified uh, Panchromatic Lensed Arcs and their Extended Star Formation or templates. Now, for achieving this objective, NASA has launched this particular program so that it can aid this gravitational lensing program. Now, what is this gravitational lensing? See, the phenomenon of I hope everyone watched this movie called as Interstellar. Now, in this movie, one important information that was conveyed to viewers is that whenever there is a body which is high of gravity, whenever there is a body which has very high gravity, when light passes near to this body, light instead of following a straight line, it will follow a curved path. Okay. Whenever this body will attract, these bodies are like have powerful gravities that they can attract light itself. That's why if you look at black holes and all, black holes have infinite amount of gravity. If you look at that, light will bend as well as it will stretch in this particular black hole. Okay. So that's why this phenomenon is called as gravitational lensing. This phenomenon of gravitational lensing occurs when a huge amount of matter, such as massive galaxy, cluster of galaxies, or a black holes, create a gravitational field that distorts and magnifies the light from objects behind it. Now, this phenomenon is called as gravitational lensing. Now, this gravitational lensing is based on Einstein theory of general relativity. Normal lenses, such as the ones in magnifying glass, use a process called as refraction. Now, using this process of refraction, they will magnify a particular objects. Now, using this phenomenon only, so far we have considered telescope. Now this James Webb telescope is trying to use the phenomenon of gravitational lensing instead of refraction. Now, similar to refraction, gravitational field of massive object causes light waves to bend as well as refocused somewhere else. If we can capture this phenomenon, we can observe which bodies have been causing this phenomenon. Now, based on that, we can study bodies which are far away from Earth. Now, the more massive the object is, the stronger its gravitational field, and hence the greater of bending of light rays. Just like using denser materials to make optical lenses, result in greater amount of refraction. So, the greater amount of mass of the body, or bigger the black hole, there will be much larger amount of bend in the light rays. So, similar to the denser materials causing greater amount of refraction. So, in effect, gravitational lenses act like natural cosmic telescope. Now, this effect of gravitational lensing allows researchers to study the details of earlier galaxies which are too far away to be seen otherwise in traditional telescope. Clear? However, gravitational lensing is very rare as it requires distant star or black hole and observer on Earth to be well aligned. Now, only if all these parameters are being met, so we can observe bodies through gravitational lensing. If it is not met, gravitational lensing is very not very useful. Okay? And also, it can help astronomers to know more about black holes as well as dark matter. So, these are the specifics with respect to gravitational lensing. Now, this question can be asked from prelims perspective. See, the next topic that we'll be looking today is aquaponics. See, aquaponics is an ecologically sustainable model that combines both hydroponics as well as aquaculture. So, aquaponics is a combination of both hydroponics and aquaculture. So, what is the combination of these things? See, hydroponics is the growth of plants in a soilless environment where soil is replaced with water. But in case of aquaculture, aquaculture is artificial rise of fish. Now, with aquaponics, both fish and plants can grow together in one integrated system. Yeah. So, by comparing hydroponics as well as aquaculture, in aquaponics, both fish as well as plants can grow in a simultaneous environment. Now, the fish produces waste. Now, this waste can be provided as organic food source for the plant, which in turn naturally filters water for the fish, creating a balanced ecosystem. Now, what is the requirement for plants to grow? Uh, it requires organic food source. Now, this organic food source is given by fish, and fish requires clean water. Now, plants will clean this particular water for fish. Now, the third participant is microbes or nitrifying bacteria, which converts the ammonia from fish waste into nitrates, which is essential for plants to be able to grow. Okay. So, the third participant in aquaponics is microbes. Now, these microbes will convert ammonia, which is released by fish waste, into nitrates, which is very essential for plants to grow. Okay. Now, what are the benefits as well as disadvantages with aquaponics? Now, FAO has come up with a technical paper in 2014 listing all the advantages as well as disadvantages of aquaponics. Now, what are the advantages of aquaponics? Aquaponics can result in higher yields, almost 20 to 25 percentage more compared to other qualitative production. Clear? Now, this aquaponics can also be used on non-arable lands such as deserts, degraded soil, or salty, sandy islands. Okay. So, traditionally, desert lands as well as salty lands cannot be used for cultivation of plants. But using aquaculture, we can use these lands into cultivated lands. Okay. Also, this aquaponics creates very little waste compared to other traditional farming practices because waste produced by fish is used as organic food source to plants, and plants also will in turn aid the development of fish ecosystem. Yeah? So it creates very little waste compared to other farming practices. Now, daily tasks, harvesting and planting are cut down to great extent, thereby saving labor and time. Both fish and plants can be used for consumption and income generation. Yeah. So these are the advantages of aquaculture, aquaponics. Now, what are all the weakness of this aquaponics? Now, these aquaponics are expensive initial startup costs compared with other soil production or hydroponics. So, they require much intensive capital cost compared to other farming practices, and it also requires knowledge of fish, bacteria, as well as plant production. Okay, only if a person has all knowledge in all these three areas, he can indulge in himself in aquaponics. And the optimal temperature range is required from 17 to 34 degrees Celsius. So, number of areas in which aquaponics can be cultivated is very less. Mistakes or accidents can cause catastrophic collapse of system. Since this is a very closed ecosystem, if any system is getting collapsed, the entire ecosystem will collapse. So, any sort of small mistake or accidents can collapse the entire system itself. Daily management is mandatory. Also, it requires reliable access to electricity, fish seed, as well as plant seeds. If used alone, aquaponics will not provide complete diet. Okay, so these are the weakness of this aquaponics. Now we'll move on to the next topic: increasing the strength of Supreme Court judges. Now, recently, Union Cabinet has approved the proposal to increase the strength of Supreme Court from 31 to 34 judges. Now, in this topic, we will look at what are the reasons why this increased strength is warranted, and we will look at what are the constitutional provisions with respect to increasing the number of judges in Supreme Court. See here, the cabinet has taken decision to increase the strength of Supreme Court from 31 to 34 judges, which includes Chief Justice of India. Supreme Court Number of Judges Act 1956 was last amended in 2009 to increase judges' strength from 25 to 31. Now it has been amended recently in 2019. Okay. As per Article 124, Clause 1 of Constitution of India, the strength of Supreme Court is fixed by law made by the Parliament. So these are the provisions with respect to increasing the strength of Supreme Court judges. Now, what are the reasons why we need increased strength in Supreme Court? One is rising pendency. Now, between 2006 to 2018, there has been almost 8.6 percentage rise in pendency of cases across all courts. All courts. Now, because of this rise in pendency of cases, we require increasing in number of judges. Also, pendency before Supreme Court increased by 36 percentage, High Courts by 17 percentage, and subordinate courts by almost 77 percentage in this period. And low dispersal rate. The disposal rate has stayed between 55 percentage to 59 percentage in Supreme Court, at 28 percentage in High Court, and at 40 percentage in subordinate courts. Because of this low disposal rate, we require increase in strength of Supreme Court. Okay? Now, what are the constitutional provisions with respect to increasing number of judges in Supreme Court? Now, the strength of Supreme Court is built in Article 124. Now, what are the provisions that have been mentioned in Article 124? Now, this Article 124 Clause 1 states that there shall be a Supreme Court consisting of Chief Justice of India and not more than 7 other judges until Parliament by law prescribes a large number. So, Constitution originally prescribes CJI plus 7 other Supreme Court judges. Now, if Parliament wants to increase this number, it can do so by passing law in the Parliament. Now, crucially, law that has been passed to increase number of judges to Supreme Court is not considered as an amendment to Constitution of India. Okay? This is very important. The law that has been passed by the Parliament to increase the number of judges of Supreme Court is not considered as amendment to the Constitution of India. Clear? Also, 124 Clause 2 states that every judge of Supreme Court shall be appointed by President by warrant through his seal after consultation with judges of Supreme Court and High Court in states. Clear? And also, Parliament is compelled to increase the number of judges if it deems necessary. So these are the constitutional provisions that has been mentioned in Article 124 with respect to strength of judges in Supreme Court of India. So now that's it with regards to this topic. Now, if you have any doubts with this particular topic, you can drop in the comments below. And also, if you have any doubts with the topics that I've been taught today, or any doubts in general, you can ask those doubts in comment section down below. Okay? Now that the class has been finished, so I hope everyone is staying healthy as well as staying indoors. In this period, staying healthy is very important. If you are contacted with coronavirus, your preparation is preparing for UPSC becomes very difficult. So stay home as much as possible. Clear? So thank you everyone. Now, if you like this video, don't forget to like, comment as well as share this particular video, and don't forget to subscribe this YouTube channel as well. And if you are planning to subscribe to Unacademy's Plus subscription, don't forget to use my code Aravind V to get 10% discount. Thank you and have a nice day.